Imagine standing before a beast that could swallow a tank whole. Its jaws snap like thunder, its footsteps shake the ground, and entire armies scatter at its roar. Now imagine a single human mechanic, grease-stained coveralls, nothing but calm in his voice, walking right up to that raging monster. Not with weapons, not with force, but with an open hand. That's the moment Queen Zelana of the Keltari nearly lost her breath. Her war beast, a Tyrannosaurus clad in armor and rage, was supposed to be untamable. Yet before her very eyes the impossible happened. The beast bent not to her crown, not to her soldiers, but to the gentle touch of a human. Why? How could something so small, so fragile, disarm terror itself with nothing more than empathy? That's the story we're about to uncover. If this story already has your heart racing, hit that like button. It helps more people find these cinematic HFY stories. Make sure to subscribe for weekly tales where humanity shows why we're never ordinary, even among the stars. And hey, share this with a friend who loves sci-fi. Trust me, they won't believe what a human mechanic does next. The moons of Keltara hung low over the canyon, washing the battlefield in a ghostly blue glow. At the center of the landing field, the ground trembled, not from machines, but from something older, something primal. Thunder, the Queen's war beast, a Tyrannosaurus Rex bred from ancient Earth stock and reforged with alien armor. His scales shimmered with metallic plating, plasma cannons strapped to his shoulders, and a roar that split the night like a thunderclap. Alien engineers scattered as his tail swept through fuel barrels, crushing steel like paper. Soldiers fanned out with weapons raised, but every one of them hesitated. They had seen what happened when thunder was provoked. Whole squads flattened beneath claws the size of trees. From her command platform, Queen Zelana's frills trembled with frustration. This creature was her people's pride, their living weapon. Yet he was untamable, unpredictable, a storm in reptilian flesh. She whispered to herself, a question she dared not ask aloud. If we cannot control thunder, can we ever control this war? And then, through the smoke and fear, one figure began walking forward. Not a soldier, not a commander, a human mechanic. His name patch read, Mac. No medals, no polished uniform, just an olive-green jumpsuit stained with grease, smudged with soot, and smelling faintly of burnt circuits. A welding torch dangled from his belt, swinging lightly as he walked across the trembling landing field. To the Keltari, he was nothing. A technician on loan from Earth, someone meant to tighten bolts, patch conduits, and keep machines running, not to stand before a beast that had shattered battalions. Yet there he was. The soldiers stared in disbelief, some raising their plasma lances, others muttering curses in their native tongue. Queen Zelana herself felt her breath catch. She wanted to scream at him to stop, to retreat before Thunder's golden eyes locked onto him. But Mac didn't hesitate. He walked with the same steady gait he used when approaching a faulty reactor. Calm, casual, as if a creature that could bite a shuttle in half was nothing more than an engine in need of repair. And perhaps in his mind it was. The Queen's claws tightened on the edge of her command chair. The human was about to die. She was certain of it. Unless he knew something her people didn't. The ground shook as Thunder turned. The massive Tyrannosaurus swung his armored head, golden eyes glowing under the moons, his jaws parted, teeth like jagged spears, breath steaming in the cold night. A single growl rolled through the canyon, deep and guttural, a sound that made even veteran soldiers stumble back. But not Mac. He stopped only a few paces from the beast, tilting his head like a man inspecting a stubborn engine. "Easy, big guy," he muttered, voice calm, almost gentle. "Heard you've got a rock in your joint again." The words meant nothing to the Keltari, but the tone, the calm cadence, the absence of fear, hung in the air like a spell. Thunder's tail lashed, claws digging trenches into the dirt. One wrong move, and Mac would vanish in a single bite. From her command platform, Queen Zelana felt her frills rise in alarm. Her soldiers tensed, weapons humming, but she hissed sharply, "Stand down!" For the first time in her reign, she was unsure if she was speaking to her guards or to herself. Mac took one last step forward. Thunder's head lowered, teeth flashing in the pale glow of the moons. The beast's roar tore through the air like an avalanche, rattling crates, shattering glass, and sending engineers diving for cover. But Mac didn't even flinch. He simply raised one grease-stained hand and patted Thunder right between the eyes. The landing field froze. Soldiers stopped breathing. Engineers peeked from behind fuel pods. Queen Zelana gripped the armrest of her chair so hard her claws cracked the alloy. And then, silence. Thunder blinked. His enormous chest heaved once, twice. Then the growl collapsed into a deep, rolling chuff. Steam hissed from his nostrils, and to the utter disbelief of everyone watching, the Tyrannosaurus leaned into the touch. The human chuckled softly. "That's better. Knew you were just cranky." A sound escaped Thunder, half sigh, half rumble. The apex predator, bred for war, the beast that had crushed armies, was purring under a human's hand. Zelana whispered the words she barely believed. "He touched it. And it likes it." Later, inside the command tent, Queen Zelana paced like a caged storm. The silken banners around her shimmered in the lamplight, but her thoughts were sharper than blades. The human sat casually on a crate, grease still streaked across his jumpsuit, sipping from a dented thermos as if he hadn't just defied death. "You risked your life," Zelana snapped, her frills trembling. "Do you understand how many of my warriors have died trying to control that beast?" Mac only shrugged, setting the thermos aside. "Thunder's not angry for no reason. You put armor on a dinosaur, feed it clone meat, and throw it into battle. Sure, it'll fight, but it's gonna be miserable. That pebble in his joint, like a rock in your boot, makes you want to bite someone." The queen stared, her golden eyes narrowing. A pebble, a rock in a boot. That was his explanation, and yet, it made sense. "You are not a strategist," she said slowly, almost testing the words. Mac gave a crooked grin. "Didn't claim to be. I'm just a mechanic." Zelana's frills lowered, her voice a whisper. "Then why does Thunder listen to you?" The very next day, the camp was no longer the same. Thunder, the terror of battlefields, no longer prowled the landing field like a storm waiting to break. Instead, he followed Mac, everywhere. Engineers dropped their tools in shock as the giant predator padded behind the human mechanic, tail swinging lazily instead of smashing fuel tanks. At one point, Thunder lowered his massive body to the dirt, rolling halfway onto his side. The ground shook, drones scattered, and then the unimaginable happened. He stayed perfectly still while Mac scratched the underside of his jaw. The war beast wanted belly rubs. Alien officers stared in horrified fascination. Some muttered prayers. Others simply gawked, their weapons hanging useless at their sides. Queen Zelana herself watched from a balcony above, her crest frills rising and falling in disbelief. When Mac climbed Thunder's back to tighten the plasma cannons mounted between his shoulders, the beast didn't growl, didn't snap. He simply waited, rumbling softly like a giant content machine. "Impossible," whispered Lady Jer, the Queen's advisor. "No," Zelana replied, her voice thin with wonder. "Not impossible. Human." That evening, Queen Zelana invited Mac into her private garden, a place no outsider had ever stepped before. Bioluminescent vines spiraled up silver-barked trees, casting golden mist across pools of still water. Crystal fountains tinkled softly, filling the air with a serenity that few soldiers ever knew. Mac, grease still smudged across his coveralls, looked hilariously out of place among the silks and jeweled lanterns. He sat stiffly at the low table, eyeing the strange violet wine in his cup. "You were not raised among beasts like Thunder," Zelana said at last, her voice measured. "And yet you calmed him when no Keltari warrior could." Mac took a sip, grimaced at the sharp taste, then shrugged. "Back home we've got horses, big animals, skittish, dangerous if you don't understand them, but once you earn their trust, they'll carry you through fire." He leaned back, tapping his cup against the table. Thunder's not so different. The queen tilted her head, studying him. He is the last of our battle beasts. The others perished. And since then, he has been difficult. Mac's expression softened. He's lonely. Zelana's frills twitched. His words cut deeper than she expected. The battlefield was chaos. Plasma fire streaking across the sky. Enemy walkers grinding forward like mountains of steel. Soldiers braced for slaughter. And then the ground shook. Thunder charged. A living storm of muscle and armor. Plasma cannons gleaming on his back. But this time he wasn't lashing out blindly. He wasn't enraged. He was focused. Atop his back sat Mac, headset crackling, one grease-stained hand resting gently against the creature's scaled neck. His other hand guided Thunder with simple gestures and quiet words only the beast seemed to hear. Left flank, big guy. Easy now. There we go. The impossible happened. Thunder pivoted like a trained warhorse, smashing enemy mechs with precision strikes, tail whipping through lines of armor as if they were paper. Plasma cannons fired on cue, cutting down drones in perfect coordination with ground troops. The soldiers who once trembled at Thunder's roars now cheered as he stormed through the battlefield like a god of war. Not a berserk monster, but a partner. In the command ship above, Queen Zelana watched the feed in stunned silence. For the first time, she saw Thunder not as a weapon, but as a warrior with a friend. The battle was over. Smoke drifted across the field, glowing faintly under the moons. Wreckage smoldered where enemy machines had fallen, and exhausted soldiers cheered as the enemy retreated. In the center of it all, Thunder stood still, sides heaving with each breath. His scales were scorched, his armor dented, but his golden eyes glowed with something the queen had never seen before. Calm. Purpose. Beside him, Mac slid off the beast's back, landing lightly in the dirt. He patted Thunder's snout as if they had just fixed a broken tractor. Good job, big guy. Nailed it. Thunder let out a low rumble. Not a roar of dominance, but a sound of contentment, almost affectionate. He even lowered his massive head until it nearly touched the mechanic's chest. From the command ridge, Zelana's claws tightened around the rail. She remembered the day she first saw Thunder crush soldiers underfoot. Unstoppable. Unyielding. Now that same beast was lowering himself to a human. Not because of force. Not because of control. Because of trust. Zelana whispered to herself, almost in awe, he would lay down his life for him. And in her heart, she knew, the human would do the same. That night, in the quiet of a starlit hangar, Queen Zelana approached the human. Thunder lay curled nearby, his breath slow and steady, like a mountain at rest. The glow of the moons glinted off his scales as the mechanic sat cross-legged against his side, sipping from his battered thermos. I once feared, Zelana said softly, that you would be crushed beneath his foot. Now, I wonder if he would die to protect you. Mac looked up, thoughtful. He would, and I'd do the same for him. The queen studied him, not as a ruler, but as a being trying to understand a mystery. Trust, she murmured, does not come from dominance. It comes from care. Her frills lowered as the truth struck deep. Perhaps we have underestimated your species. Mac smiled faintly. Happens a lot. We underestimate each other too. For the first time in many cycles, Queen Zelana felt a flicker of something unfamiliar. Hope. The human had not only tamed her war beast, he had shown her a new kind of strength. Not conquest, not control, but connection. And so, what began as a moment of terror became the story of an impossible bond between a human mechanic, an alien queen, and the last war beast of her people. It makes you wonder, in a galaxy obsessed with power, could humanity's greatest strength be something as simple as compassion? If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more tales where humans shock the galaxy, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, because sometimes the smallest human gestures change the universe forever.